Hi, welcome to Go Tell Mom. I'm Dianna Kelly, and I've been momming for several decades, including tending my fur babies, kids I gave birth to, kids I mentored as a broadcaster and college instructor, my kids' friends, and my friends. I'm not a psychologist or doctor, but I do know how to dig up advice from those who are, and that's what I'll share with you. If you have something to share with me, remark, comment, question, please comment below. How many fights did your mom have to referee when you and your siblings were kids? We had more than a few in my family. With 3 kids, the odds were always off when one of us went on a rampage against another. My sister, who's 5.5 years younger than me, would always be the deciding factor. Sometimes it would be girls against boy. Other times it would be younger kids against older one, me. Not that our mom would let it last for very long. KidsHealth.org says many kids are lucky enough to become best friends with their siblings, but it's common for brothers and sisters to fight. Kids can compete from everything from toys to attention, at least when they're younger. As I grew up and my siblings followed, we all managed to become friends, mostly because the 3 of us were encouraged to find our own niches and follow our own interests. My mom used to say, I raised 3 individuals. The rivalry ended when we ventured into adulthood. My brother's a senior airline pilot, my sister, president of a corporate insurance company, and I'm a broadcaster and college professor. Aside from an adherence to schedules, there's not much else our careers have in common. But during childhood, before we developed those very different interests, we would definitely battle over who would get the most attention from our parents, who would get to watch their favorite TV show, we only had one TV, and who would get to play with our favorite toy first. Big problem for my parents since both my brother and I liked superheroes. Mom and Dad solved that issue by making sure I only got dolls and my brother only got G.I. Joe action figures, as opposed to Batman and Robin or Superman action figures. When kids are toddlers, they are naturally protective of their belongings, Kids Health tells us. If baby brother cops the older sibling's prized possession, the older kid may act badly. I tried to get my son and daughter interested in different things when they were little, but they had similar interests. Both were musicals, so toy musical instruments, and they'd clobber each other with them if one of them tried to use the other's toy. Both of them liked Teletubbies, and fortunately they didn't gravitate to the same ones, so that was a saving grace. That lasted about 6 months. When they hit grade school, it was all about activities, and they were only 18 months apart. Both played soccer, both played baseball, both were in musicals. How they did with their teams could result in a few heated words on the ride home. Yep, each wanted more praise than the other from the parents. ClevelandClinic.org says the feeling of competition is at the root of sibling rivalry. But not all competition is negative. It can make a kid work harder. However, it can become toxic and damaging when it's taken too far or promoted by parents. If you make a clear effort to foster competition, cut favoritism, and direct attention to the problems as they pop up, you can help reduce the long-term effects of rivalry. Don't compare the kids or encourage competition between them. PositiveParentSolutions.com advises us to lose the labels. When we refer to one kid as the athletic one, the other child automatically thinks, I'm not the athletic one, so why even try? If dad refers to one child as the smart one, the other can only assume that he's a lot less than smart. So skip the scales. Create opportunities for cooperation, maybe with building blocks where they're creating something together, or with cooking where everyone makes a dish. One of the best experiences my sibling and I had was when we cooked for my parents' anniversary, and my parents were thrilled. Lots of kids get into sibling rivalry battles because they want parents' attention. Positive Parenting Solutions suggests giving it to them, 10 to 15 minutes each day. The kids call the shots. Maybe it's a tea party, or Lego building, or sidewalk drawing with chalk. The kid gets to be the center of the universe for that 10 minutes. Heck, you spend more time than that in the Starbucks line. If one kid likes to go outdoors, take a walk in the park. If another child likes to sit and read, make time for that too, together. Don't take sides in an argument between squabbling sibs. Just get them to calm down and listen to each kid's version of what went down, and ask them how they feel about that. Then get them to come up with some solutions to their predicament. If nobody comes up with something that could work, make a few suggestions yourself and help them reach an agreement. And if that doesn't work, Positive Parenting Solutions says it's time to put them all in the same boat. Either you take turns with the game or I will put it away for the rest of the day. Then do it. That tended to be my mom's favorite solution. Remember, as kids learn to deal with conflict, they also learn important skills that will serve them for life. How to value someone else's point of view, how to compromise, how to negotiate, and how to control their tempers. Let your kids know they're loved and that there's enough for everyone. Set up opportunities for kids to spend time together with each other and with you. It can help ease tensions between them and create a family bond. Consider setting up a program where the kids earn points toward a family fun-oriented activity when they work together to stop squabbling. It should reduce the volume in the house and reduce your need for a hearing aid as you all grow together as a family. This is Go Tell Mom with Sheri, Waltz, and Dianna Kelly. Sibling rivalry was kind of a problem in my family growing up because everybody wants their parents' attention. You know, did you run into that when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I don't remember when I was really young having rivals. I don't remember that, but I know that when we were in our teenage years, it definitely became my brother and I against my sister, and we certainly weren't always the nicest. It didn't bring out the best in me, and so that rivalry happened, and I remember that very clearly in terms of our high school years. Mm-hmm. I don't remember it from elementary or being a young kid. I just don't have a memory of it.
Now, see, for us, it was reversed because, my sister's like 5.5 years younger than me.
Okay.
But like 3 years younger than my brother. So it would be the two of them against me all the way until I hit high school. And once my brother got into high school with me, then we were like a unit. And my sister at that point had her own little group of friends, and they were all pretty tight. So she didn't care. It wasn't that we so much kind of faced off against each other as it was, we were closer in high school years. And then when she went into high school, she and my brother became close because I was in college.
Right.
And I think it was interesting how those dynamics changed as we were growing up from, you're my rival, to you're my bud. And I was editor of the school yearbook and the school newspaper, and he loved photography. So I'd be sending him out on things, and my sister didn't have anything in common with that. So we didn't, but we were both cheerleaders.
Okay.
So we had that kind of in common. But it's really tough when you're like, okay, one of us, she was a better athlete than me, so she did better in cheerleading than I did. So there was a little bit of that teasing that would go on afterwards, when she got to the age where she was a cheerleader.
Right. Yeah. No, like I said, I don't really remember when I was young, but certainly in high school, my sister was much more studious than me, and got better grades. I wouldn't say, studious isn't the right word. She was just naturally gifted because she didn't study. But she just did very well. And I had to study for my grades.
Yeah.
And so that was an issue. But I was very social. My sister was not. And my brother was very social. So my brother and I bonded over being very social. He was 4 years older than me. But I still, I went to football games with him. I went to parties with him, and those types of things because he was just a social person. And
right.
And so was I.
Yeah.
And so we bonded over that. But then as we exited high school and then went to college, then my sister and I became very tight.
Yeah.
And then now, of course we don't live in the same state, but I talk to her, almost weekly, and we share a lot. And we were able to get beyond the rivalry piece of it as we got older.
Yeah.
But my kids, they haven't, it's hard, they're still young. So they're just out of college, and they still, that rivalry is so strong with them. It is a constant competition between whose life is better. And I try hard to remember back, to my relationship with my sister. And be like, was I like that with my sister? I don't know. I was a little self-absorbed and I probably didn't care, but maybe my sister felt like that. I should probably talk to her about that because both my kids, as soon as they find out what one kid did, they'll call me. Did you hear that, Ivy's doing this? Did you hear that Lily did that? And I'm like, people, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, you're family, and you should be rooting each other on. Yeah. But how do you get kids to root each other on? That's the tricky part.
I don't know. I definitely, if I could go back and do things different, I would, because again, I feel like I wish that my kids had that bond that my sister and I have.
Right.
I'm still hopeful that they'll grow into it. Certainly my sister and I became much more close when we both had children. So I would say up until we had children, we were just living our own lives, right? So we were all doing our own thing. But when we both had children, that's when things changed. So I'm still hopeful that my girls will come to that point where they rely on each other and are friends and will go through life together. But I don't think I prioritized that as a parent. Honestly, I think I just was, get up, get your lunch made, get off to school, pick you up from your event. And I don't think I prioritized the bonding in a way that I think would have worked. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, because I feel like they're really competitive with each other.
But how can you do that? I mean, how can you get them to think about the other child's feelings when they're not, I mean, mentally, kids don't really become social until they hit almost their 20s. You know, they don't start to view the world through a lens other than their own personal interests.
Yeah. I don't know. I think for my kids, it was difficult. It was easy for me, but I think it made it difficult for them because they were so close in age. So they're only 16 months apart, and they're only 1 year apart in school. Ooh. And they're the same gender, and they also did the same things. Yep. So they were in band together. They spent a lot of time together, and I think that fostered the rivalry because they were doing the same things, but it's natural for kids to want to stand out and to be unique. Right. But they were getting carted to all of the same things. Like, I was very thankful when my youngest one got into band and they wanted to put her in the same instrument, and she said no, and I was like, oh, thank God, because it would have been even worse, I think. So she picked a different instrument. My daughter did woodwinds, and she did the French horn, and so that was really, I was glad that ended up happening, but there was a lot of competition around that.
Yeah.
You know,
my kids went through that too because they were both musical. They were both into acting. Austin was more computer oriented. Janina liked dance. But Austin was very graceful, so you show him a move for a musical or something like that, and he had it. The one time, and it was just a really shining moment for me, is when they both had leads in their junior high musical. Oh. And they were in Seussical.
Okay.
And she was kind of playing a boy's role, but they let her play it because her voice was so strong. And just the two of them actually had a duet together where they were singing opposite each other. And it was really cool to see them. And they were unified on that particular show. There wasn't the, mad at each other thing.
Right.
And when they'd work together on a show, there wasn't that kind of rivalry. It was when they were both doing something musical where one of them was cast and the other one wasn't.
Yes.
That there was a problem.
Yeah. And that happened to my kids. They did the gifted program. My younger one was, was part of it. She was asked to be part of it. My older one was not. And that created a lot of hurt.
Right.
That they still talk about today. I'm like, oh, you guys are out of college. Who cares? Like, I don't even understand you people. But it still is something that I think created a lot of hurt.
You think it's the labels, just being labeled like that,
I think so.
Because you're labeled gifted, and all of a sudden it means that you are somehow better. And it just means, no, you've got an area in your brain or in your soul of expertise that most people want for this particular program, but the other one could have expertise in another area, like maybe they're more athletic, or maybe they're more social, or something that the first one isn't, the person that was chosen for the gifted program.
I think it's really hurt Ivy's feeling, because Ivy is like me. She studies, but she does very well, but she studies for everything. Like, so she had to work at her grades, but she got straight A's. It was never a problem. But I think that in her mind, it made her feel less than her sister.
Because it didn't come easily.
Yes, and then she didn't get into the program. Oh. And so it created an animosity that we're still dealing with today. And I'm hopeful that they'll work through it. Yeah. But at the time, I don't know. At the time, I didn't think much about it. We probably should have talked through it at the time more. But I was, again, just like trying to parent through the moment, right?
Yeah.
And so now that I see how it has shaped them and their personalities, I wish I would have done more and been more present and thought more about how they are responding to things.
But it's hard to do that when you're also juggling a job and other responsibilities.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, like, if I could do it all over again, I think that would be the one piece that I wish I had done differently. Would it have mattered? I have no idea, because certainly not everybody's friends with their siblings, and you know what I mean. So it's like
it makes it easier on family events when they all get along and they're not avoiding doing things with you because the other siblings with you.
Yes. It's not that bad, but it's certainly something. Like, yeah, I just went out to lunch with Ivy, my older daughter, and I said, oh, well, we're going to look at maybe trying to do an Alaskan cruise. And she's like, oh, yeah, because your favorite one wants to do that. Because my youngest daughter has been complaining that she hasn't been to Alaska yet. Oh. I'm just kind of like, she's not my favorite, but, you know, I can't tell you that because, number one, I guess I need to demonstrate it more, right? Because telling somebody isn't the same as showing it. So I'm just like, ugh.
Well, no, it's just she's doing math. You know, she's like, one, your younger daughter wants to go on an Alaskan cruise, plus one, you're suggesting an Alaskan cruise equals that, according to her. And it doesn't occur to her that maybe you would like to go on an Alaskan cruise.
Well, I tell her she doesn't like to travel. And I'm like, oh, but if you want to go somewhere, then we will do what you want to do. I'm like, oh, but you never offer a suggestion. You never say you want to go anywhere. She's willing to go with us, which I'm just happy about. That she's like, so she'll go with us if we make that happen. But it's like, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to go see? Yeah, and she's always like, oh, nowhere. It's like, well,
you know better than that.
Yeah,
but she just doesn't want to put her brain to work on
yes,
that.
Probably. I don't know. It's definitely hard. Mm-hmm. But
well, it's like we would take our kids to amusement parks, and they'd get all excited until they got there, and then there'd be the squabbling about, I want to go here and you want to go there, and if we take you there, then that means you don't love me because I want to go here.
Yes.
You know, so there is that rivalry, and that they want their parent to gravitate toward their interests, and that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
You know, because there are going to be times that if you're an outdoorsy person and you want to go hiking, and you've got a kid that wants to go hiking, that likes to go hiking,
right,
and the other one doesn't, which was the case in my family. I was not a hiking person, although I like it now, but I wasn't back then when I was a kid. And so the fact that Dad would want to take all of us hiking, and I would run out of gas about halfway up the mountain, you know, I would feel a little bit of resentment then.
Yes.
It's like, oh, well, you don't love me because you don't want to do things I want to do, you know, and so there's that.
Which is it's just a weird thing because Ivy, my oldest, she likes to do crafts, and I am all about crafts, and my youngest one doesn't, but my youngest one does like to travel, and I like to travel. So I don't know. I feel like there's stuff I like on both of them, but it's certainly...
So you go to a craft show in a city that the other one wants to go see.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you do.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Although both of them somehow or another got to the point where they hate to shop, and I'm just like,
how do they hate to shop?
I don't know.
Seriously.
My youngest one, when she was little, loved to shop. She would buy a souvenir everywhere we went. But then when she turned around, maybe 12 or 13, she stopped shopping, and she's never turned back. But my oldest one just recently stopped wanting to shop. I think mostly because now she lives on her own, and money is more tight, right? Because she's got to make her own and pay her own bills.
Right.
And so shopping is not as much fun as it used to be when I was the one paying for everything and doing all of that, you know, so she doesn't enjoy it as much. But I'm always like, nobody wants to go shopping?
Yeah, why do you not want to go shopping? It's funny because my son does not like to shop unless he's got a specific item in mind, in which case, come shopping with me, Mom, which means I'd like you to pay for this. but my daughter, she'll window shop till forever if I let her.
No, I love to do that. That's so much fun.
I enjoy that as well. So but
I wonder if the rivalry is not as much with different genders. I don't know, because you have a boy and a girl.
Yeah, but trust me, there's rivalry there, and they both notice. I mean, my sister got her 4-year degree. She's 18 months younger than her brother.
Okay.
And my son is still working to finish his.
Okay.
So there's that. He graduated from Ball State, and I swear he powered himself through that so that he would have a degree before his sister did. So there's that. The rivalry is there. He's like, well, I've got my associate's degree, so.
Are they competitive with games?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I wonder, I don't know. Because I'm not competitive at all. And so the whole rivalry thing to me is so foreign. Like, I don't understand why my kids compare themselves to each other, because
I can't play Monopoly with them. I just can't, because they get mad, and we played Monopoly, I think it was last Christmas, one game, because Janina and Austin got mad at each other and just were, and Austin tends to win at games. So she was getting really frustrated and a little bit mean, and she's not usually, and it was like, okay, let's agree to never do this again. And I'm looking at her fiance, and he's like, yeah.
He's like, I'm scared. Yeah. I don't want to be part of this.
But there were other games that we were fine with that, because you could play many rounds, and all of us would win at least one.
Right.
But Monopoly takes so much time.
It does.
Yeah. They are not happy Monopoly campers. Let's put it that way. So I think, I guess you have to figure out, when it comes to those kind of games, what kind of games are not going to trigger that, rivalry switch.
See, I'm not big into games at all, so we didn't play a ton of games growing up. We played a few, like Sequins was one of my favorite. We would play that game a lot, but I wasn't really big in games, which is why now I'm not big in video games, and my kids, they both enjoy them. They have significant others that love video games, and they do play a lot, but I don't know, I've never been into that. So I wonder how competitive they really are, because I couldn't tell you if they are, because I don't do things with my kids
like that
that are competitive in nature, because I don't find it fun. So I really don't know. I guess I'll have to look at that. Maybe we'll try to play something. We used to do a lot of puzzles or coloring or things like that, but not they're not competitive activities, right?
Okay.
So
well, they kind of can be if you've got the last piece. There's that. And my kids would look at it that way, so we didn't do puzzles very much. But we'd play Jenga or something, and they were good-natured about figuring out, because one of them would win, and then the other one would win, and then my son-in-law to be would win, and so it was and I never won, because for some reason I just never could get the balance right on that, and that was fine with me. I'm like, I don't care,
right?
And as long as I took that attitude, they tended to take that. Whoever wins, it's not a big deal. But with Monopoly, I swear part of that was because my ex-husband came from a family of 6 kids, and they were all super competitive. So when we go visit, they would, the two of them would get into and I swear my kids kind of adapted that mentality when it came to that game. I don't know why, but
I don't know. It'd be interesting. I'd have to look and see if the larger the family, it would make sense that the larger the family, the more competitive, because you are vying for that attention and that, that praise and those things. And so, we both only have 2, so it'd be, interesting to see. But I don't know. I don't know. My sister's family, she has 4 kids, but she is competitive.
Yeah.
So she is very competitive, and so her kids are, well, at least 3 out of the 4 are very competitive as well. But I wonder if it has a lot to do with the personality of the parent. If they. Although I don't know, because I'm not competitive, but now my kids have a strong rivalry. It is, at least in my opinion, it's really strong.
Competitive.
He plays a lot of sports, so I would say yes, he's competitive in that way. But he was never, I don't mean to say negative, but he was never highly involved in the child rearing process. He definitely was a more traditional, worked outside the home, and that was his responsibility. Right. So I don't know. I wonder if I think that my kids have a very strong rivalry, but if someone else wouldn't think that they would.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because my tolerance for rivalry or competition is very low. I don't like it and I don't want it. Yeah. So I wonder, from an outside perspective, if they truly are that much rivalry.
Or if it's just normal.
If it's just normal.
Well, it's funny because when I was a few years out of school, and I lived in Hartford, and my sister was going to UConn, so she'd come over my house occasionally and all this, and we actually at one point were thinking about, when she graduated, buying a condo together. And she brought her roommate home one time, and it was just a family tradition that we would start a debate about a particular subject. She said to my sister afterwards, "Your family argues a lot." And it was like, well, no, we were just debating something, and we walk away and it's no big deal. But she thought it was a big deal,
right?
Because they never debated at her house when she was growing up.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It could be. Yeah, I don't know.
And just a different perspective. based on somebody else's filter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because isn't that how we go through life, right? It's through our own perception and our own experiences and how they taint and filter and color what it is that we are experiencing. So I never really thought about it before. Yeah. But I am still really hopeful that my kids will get to that point where they will enjoy each other's company.
That's what I'm hoping with mine.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, me too. I'll come back in about 10 years and we'll talk about it.
We'll discuss it again. All right. This is Go Tell Mom with Sheri Waltz and Dianna Kelly. Thanks for listening. We chew on stuff that you talk about with your mom, or maybe not. I'm Dianna Kelly. If there's something you want brought up, something you want to add, comment below, and I'll be back next week.